So our next conversation is about a question that should matter to every media and event leader in the room. What if you could actually make money and investment off of underutilized inventory and advertising assets? So each year, billions of dollars in media inventory go unused, while high-growth brands are spending an extraordinary share of revenue on advertising, much of it concentrated in the hand of a few dominant platforms. So this session is not just about media spend, it is about asset productivity, long-term value creation, and whether there is a smarter way for media companies to participate in growth. To explore that, I'm joined by Diana Florescu, founding partner for Media for Growth. So Diana will join us on the stage, and she'll begin with some slides that she'll share. So join me in welcoming Diana. Do you have your slides? That should be your slides right there.
Thanks so much, Heather. All right.
Do you usually put that?
I don't think we can see the slides just yet.
Oh, they're right over there.
I hope everybody had a great break so far. We've had some amazing sessions. So I'm going to pick up and probably go back to some of the things that were said earlier. But one thing I was told, and I will walk you through the model, and we have a great conversation with Heather, is that this is impossible and it can't be done. I actually sat in the conversation a couple of days ago in New York. It is possible, and this model actually has a lot of scale, and I think a lot of utility right now, especially in America. I'm going to wait for the slides because we have some big numbers to show.
Yes, we do. Does everyone know what's going on with the slides?
All right, it's coming up.
Okay, great.
Perfect. I think you're going to start seeing $37 billion or $37.7 billion on the slide. Could anyone take a guess of what it stands for? Anybody?
Unsold inventory.
You're very close. That's right. But let's break it down, right? What it actually means when we get the slide back up, because I have a breakdown.
So we might have to ad-lib.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you how we got to that $37.7 billion, but you're perfectly right. So that is I would say, underutilized space. So we're looking at it, I mean, the whole industry, so the US advertising spend in 25, still estimate figures, comes at about $435 billion. If we take both the unsold and the remnant, so this is space that is sold at a discounted value, it's about $90 billion. Just to put things in perspective, okay, here we go. I think I'm seeing it, you can't see it. But it's about 40% of the US advertising spend that in 2025 went unsold, or it got sold on a big discount. I feel like I should wait because there are some really, really nice brands and numbers that I would like to show you. So,
well, what we could do is maybe flip the script.
Oh, you can see it? All right,
yeah,
fantastic,
yeah.
Great. All right, well, we already covered that part. So we talked about unsold, we talked about remnant and unsold, which is significant. And we're only looking at everything else outside search and social. So that would be broadcast, any type of linear, CTV, publishing, and so much more. We have it broken down there, and if anyone has any questions about how we got to these numbers, there's a much bigger spreadsheet behind it. Now, there are a lot of challenger brands. We call them challenger brands. Some of you maybe call them startups. These are companies that are growing really fast. Their revenue is anywhere from maybe $15 to $50 million. Sometimes we got a bit higher. They are spending about 40% on average. In some cases, we have a few brands that will show up on the screen, even 70% of their revenue on advertising, which is significant. But about 40% of that, or actually 52% of that, goes into 5 major platforms: Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Alphabet, more recently TikTok. What is happening, and I think everybody has seen this for many, many years, a lot of traditional publishers are losing market share at the exchange of these really big digital platforms. These are brands that would probably spend about 8 years on average to even think about spending on TV or any form of above-the-line media. And I think a lot of event organizers in the room here would have a lot of utility for some of these brands as well. So what if we can actually compound that value of undersold, underutilized space by investing in some of the new Airbnb and Uber companies of the world? These are actual companies on this slide that have used this model effectively across different countries. And according to our research, there's over 40 unicorns, so billion-dollar companies that have successfully used what we call media capital or media for equity. My name is Diana Florescu. I'm the founding partner of Media for Growth. We are an investment firm that uses our media partners' underutilized space to compound that value by investing in brands. So these are some of the partners that we already work with and transact. We have many more joining us, especially in publishing as well as streaming. And you may wonder how this is relevant. And I know there's a lot of B2B companies here, and that's the theme of the event. We do have brands, and we'll walk with Heather through an example that could actually pertain to some of the B2B companies, events that we have. But there are usually 3 main reasons why these media partners invest with us. One, let me walk you through 3, and then we'll take it step by step. This is a very unique set of advertisers. So we are essentially an extended BD function of their sales team. Secondly, they diversify revenue streams. And lastly, it should be equally important to the last 2, financial returns. We're using this as an investment. Why are these companies so unique? And I have a few examples here, some of the companies we invested. We have a pipeline of many, many more companies. They don't have an agency of record. These are companies that are spending significant budgets on Meta and Google search. They're just about to branch out into above-the-line media. I think for a lot of sales team in these organizations, this is an overlooked segment, or sometimes it's just really hard to find. And we work with international brands coming into the US, so that's probably, arguably, even harder. Secondly, diversifying revenue streams. We work with CFOs and CROs, so these transactions usually get approved at a group level. We receive an allocation from these groups on an annual basis, and then we work very closely with the sales team. Now, the CROs and the CFOs do record the value of transactions as top-line revenue, which is very important, especially for public listed companies. And then thirdly, financial returns. We normally invest between 1 to 10 million in a given deal, and we split the principal and the profits with our media partners. So we usually retain a third. Everything else is returned to the partner. So if we invest $1 million and we get 10 million back, then 7.5, 8 million goes back to the partner. I think the clicker just stopped. We have a few examples of brands that we work with, but I don't know if this will work anymore. Is there any way to point out at a different source of, no, okay. All right, I think we skipped through the example. So Heather and I know we're running behind, so we'll walk you through an example of how it actually worked. I just want to reiterate that these are brands that have real IP, so we're always looking for category leaders when we invest. Kayaks is one of the examples, and we'll talk more about it in a moment. And I just wanted to finish off by, I listened to a lot of the sessions that were here earlier this morning, and I think everybody is talking about AI, and we're looking at it maybe through a layer of optimization and making things more efficient. I'm looking at it from an advertising perspective, and I see a lot of the budgets and the conversations going into the direction of LLM search. So when I think through the lens of a brand, if right now we're getting to a point to deploy agents to do the shopping for us, or to try to understand or find information about us, then I think the opportunity to invest in awareness and building your brand is more important than ever. And I think this is where this model alongside really strategic partners has real utility. We've been in the US for about 14 months. We've been deploying about 10 million, 12 million so far. We raised 60. And we have a very diverse stack of media that we're looking to grow. So I'm going to take a seat and talk to Heather through some examples and try to make this applicable to some of the event organizers we have in the room today. Thank you for bearing with me on the slides as well.
Sorry about the slides. So I just want to explain why I brought Diana here to RevvedUP. She actually was a guest on the RevvedUP podcast. And the thing that fascinated me, because it's all about new revenue streams, and it does apply to B2B media, and it does apply actually to events. Because if you think about it, what she's doing is creating a venture fund with unused inventory that you then, as the person who owns the inventory, go into the venture,
Sure.
you're a limited partner.
Yep.
And so now what happens to the investor, whether it's the exhibition owner or the media company, is you're able to actually monetize what would normally be unused or sold for super cheap, like remnant.
Yep.
Now you actually are getting full value. They actually work with the clients to make sure that the marketing is actually done correctly, so that you're going to have a happier customer. It does count as revenue on the books, and it actually then expands into new revenue because you are acquiring new customers. And then on top of that, you are investing in this company, so when the company exits, you have a return. So I just thought this was an incredibly unusual and interesting model, and that, how can we take this and apply? I mean, many in this room do exhibitions in beauty and in B2C sectors where these brands need to get out. So that's the rationale. But let's start with the real world application, which is CAEX. And who is CAEX? What was the opportunity? How was the campaign structured? And what outcome best illustrates how this model works in practice?
Thank you, Heather. And I've always found it very fascinating. You got the model immediately. I know it's not an easy concept to grasp at first, and I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions. But CAEX, so just to walk through an example, is just one of the companies we invested in. They are a next generational functional beverage. They have both a pre and post-workout beverage. It's clinically backed, has real IP, real patent, and I think actually has a real application to some of the B2B companies in the room because of its technology. So if you see maybe on some of the pictures here that we have on the slide, these are just snapshots from the campaign. We've also done their creative using AI. We have an AI creative studio. The bottle and the cap on the top, it's patented. So the substance that you ultimately have in your drink is kept in that cap before you consume it. So if we talk about creatine, if we talk about a beverage that you require the substance to increase its efficacy the moment you consume it, that's what that technology does. You push it down the moment you consume it, and then the efficacy improves. Now, if I think about a lot of the healthcare, or I think we have Informa in the room, huge, event company. I was at Expo West just 2 weeks ago, right? That VCAP technology can be licensed across the beverage industry. We co-invested with the largest brewing company in Spain. So there's a lot of applications to it. In this particular case, we focus a lot on the consumer part of the business, not on the B2B side, and that's where we see the opportunity of diversifying the stack. We're very consumer focused at the moment. But this was a company that entered the US roughly 2 years ago. It's a Swiss brand. They've got a lot of attention, and they are established in Switzerland. They had no brand awareness in the US. So we started a campaign last summer. We first invested $2 million. And it's a great example of how much we compounded that value based on money on invested, multiple on invested capital. So we invested $2 million in July last year. We got in at roughly 36 million valuation. We doubled down at the start of the year, 3 million, so we five in total. And now the company is raising at about 50 million. So we multiplied in 6 months at 1.5 the net value of the advertising. So we traded the rate card value. Now, the displacement cost that our media partners are actually recording on their books, that's far, far lower. So what they've actually gotten in return, it's much higher than just 1.5x. And then it's a brand that is growing phenomenally well. I think we have a slide, just what we've done off the back of the first campaign. The second campaign is still running, so we're still on all those channels you've seen, Tennis Channel, Hulu, Disney, and many others. So I think if I go back to what this model does for this brand and implicitly the partners that invested in this company, Kayaks would have never thought about spending $5 million on events or above the line, right? First of all, it's a growing company, their budget is not that high. And secondly, and I think we have a panel right on private equity and we will understand how they think, investors, we co-invest with them. We know how they think. They usually don't like to put their money knowing that they go into advertising, right? They want you to spend on operational cost, efficiency, and so much more. And it's in a way, it's fair, right? I always give this example, a fund that is $41 million, let's say, a seed fund, needs to return over $3 billion to have a return of 16% every year. So they are very specific of where they deploy their money. So we provide access, and then for our publishers, for our media partners, we provide the opportunity to increase the value of that media that otherwise would have gone unsold. I mean, it's perishable.
100%. It's like, as I say, it's taking a match and throwing some dollars and put a little gas and light it on fire.
Well, and like you said initially, right, there's a lot of thought process that goes into this because we are omni-channel. So very rarely you see a single partner reflected in a single company. So we take the approach of working across the funnel, across media companies. And that's another, I think, aspect for event organizers you're coming into a mix of other partners, amplifying or rather multiplying that effect, working alongside broadcasters, publishers, out-of-home companies, and many others. So we're on track for 100 by the end of the year.
Excellent, excellent. And we only have 2 minutes, so I have a lot of questions, but if I had to ask one question that would be most pertinent to this audience, what would that be and how would you answer it?
It's a great open question. I think what I feel like what I didn't do a good job probably about this, and you're probably all wondering what is she talking about, is that you're all B2B companies. And I personally see a lot of opportunity here. And if I take Kayaks, or if I take, I'm going to say Trip, we invested in an AI travel tech company. Most of you probably do some trade events, targeting the travel or the tourism industry. I'm giving this as an example.
Star Travel Group, yeah.
Right? Imagine owning a piece, 3%, 4% in this company, Trip, which is an AI travel tech company for multi-destination booking. You go there, you plug in where you want to go, they create a whole package for you, and they're usually known for being most effective and cost efficient. That's a company that needs access to OTA agencies, they need access to airlines, and at the same time, they need their B2C aspect of the business, right? I mean, the people coming to your event could use a partner like Trip. I'm giving an example. So I think the applications are multiple. I think almost every business that we work with has a B2B component that usually we don't touch that much, especially food service. We've got several because we focus more on the consumer aspects up till now. So I think the opportunity is enormous with events.
And just one last point, I believe this model, I was very surprised about this when we had our podcast, is that this model has existed in Europe for, 20-something years?
Yeah, so some of the people, so we started back in the UK. We only just moved the fund here 2 years ago. Some of the people on the board have been doing this for 20 plus years in Germany, India, any other parts of the world as well.
Well, Diana's going to be here throughout the event, so please make sure to engage with her and ask questions. She's actually one of the interesting people, what I call on the adjacent side of our market, not the traditional person you would expect at an industry event. She's actually a great speaker, and so glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.